right, friends, good to see you. Happy full moon. As far as props, I think you'll want to have a strap. It's going to be really useful. And if you don't have a strap, anything like a belt or, an exercise band or something like that will be helpful. And in fact, I'll have you have the strap sort of within your vicinity because we'll use it in not too long, but I will actually have us starting in a heart roll. So, my thoughts with this practice for the flower full moon, I did a little research about it today. And as you might imagine, in the springtime, it's called the flower full moon because this is right when a lot of the flowers are starting to bloom and blossom. So, it's a perfect time for us to bloom and blossom as well with some stretches. So, I thought a heart roll would be a really lovely way to start. So you'll get a blanket, and I like to hold it from the long edge and then roll it, anywhere from maybe 50% of the way all the way to 100% of the way. And that's going to be underneath your heart, the shoulder blades. And then you might want to have a second blanket or a pillow nearby for your head. I often like to use it, not every single time, but often I will. And then we'll come on down and you'll place the back of your shoulder blades on your blanket, which is just about underneath the sternum, the breastbone. And then for me, I like that blanket under my head. So I feel like I'm getting a nice stretch, but it feels easeful. And then you have the option here to have your legs straight. Some people like to have the knees bent in a constructive rest. So either way, and you could actually do anything you wanted with your legs, but we'll start here. And as you're getting yourself situated, just a reminder that, in pretty much all of these yin stretches, this one included, you're finding your Goldilocks zone. So everything should feel mild, possibly up to moderate, but we don't want anything to feel too intense, especially if we have the intention for this practice of blossoming, blooming, opening the front of the body. We want to feel supported. We want to feel easeful. You can always unroll that blanket a little bit if you need to. And this is a lovely opportunity for us to observe the breath. And just by the nature of observing the breath, often we will deepen it or lengthen it a little bit. You may notice with the heart roll that you can feel more of a blooming through the ribs as you breathe. There's more space for the ribs to spread. And then just notice as you're opening through the chest and the lung area, sometimes that creates a little bit of tension in the face or jaw. So if you notice that, like I was noticing it, just think about softening your jaw. We'll be here a few more cycles of breath. We're opening the shoulders, which sometimes in yoga they call the front of the shoulders, the front of the hips, the front gates, the four gates of the body. And now, anytime in the next few breaths, we'll gently remove the blanket roll. So for me, I just usually roll to the side and slide it on out. And we'll return to our back, minus the blanket. See if you notice any residual effect. Maybe you notice a temperature change in the chest and shoulders, or even like a texture that feels different than before. And then I mentioned the front gates of the body. Now that we've done each of the shoulders, we'll do the front of the hips. So I'll ask you to roll over to your right side. And as you roll over to your right side, you'll probably want a pillow or a bolster, folded blanket under your head. You could use your arm if you didn't have other props, because we just want to think about supporting the head. So to stretch the left hip, your left hand will hold on to the left shin or ankle or foot, but this is also where you might want to use your strap. So you can absolutely loop the strap on the left foot. So just pointing out it's the same hand. So left hand, left foot, and opening through the front gate of the hip, also known as the hip flexor, the quad. You may even have your left shoulder rolling back a little bit, so you feel a little bit of an opening there as well. So a lot of you know that I've become a bird nerd over the past few years, and I love my hummingbirds and have hummingbird feeders, but I got a new type of hummingbird feeder this year. And tonight, for the very first time, I noticed I have Baltimore Orioles that are feeding on my hummingbird feeders. So that was amusing to watch during dinner tonight. But they were so beautiful with their bright orange. They literally look like a flower in the tree. And I had no idea that they also liked hummingbird nectar. All right, my friends, we have two more breaths here. And then as you start to release that left leg, just for a moment or two, I find it's nice to stretch your leg toward the ceiling and even move through that foot a little bit. And then nice and easy, we'll go to the other side. So I'm gonna relocate myself just so I can still make eye contact with you, but you can obviously just flip over if you wanted to. And now it's the right hand to the right foot. And as you do that, just make sure that you're still supporting your head in a way that feels comfortable to you. And we'll open up the right hip gate. When I was reading about the flower full moon today in preparation for our time together, um, it said that this is a full moon that really kind of encourages us to be motivated to not only bloom and blossom, but to fulfill our potential. So I thought that was sort of fitting because I know when it's spring for me, I get a little, um, I don't know, like a reborn sense of purpose, and I love to be outside. It feels like a rebirth of sorts after the winter. We have about 5 more cycles of our breath here. These front gates of the body are often sort of closed tightly, just like a flower bud, because we're on our computers and phones so much. So, bending ourselves in this opposite direction can be a nice antidote to the end of your day. And then now we'll release the right foot, stretch it up to the sky, move through your ankle a little bit. And then we'll roll onto our back with or without a little bit of a blanket or a pillow under your head. And this is where you'll want to have your strap nearby, but we'll pause for a moment in constructive rest with the knees bent, knees touching, feet nice and wide. Now we focused on the front of the body. Let's focus a little bit on the side body with a little windshield wiper of the knees. You can notice as you do that that you'll feel a little bit more of a stretch, maybe up the sides of the rib cage, the side body. Wonderful. And now hugging your right knee into your chest, we're going to do the leg series that I so often teach because it's such an effective way to get the other three sides of our legs. So as you hug the right knee in, feel free to have your left leg straight or bent. And let's do 3 circles each way at the ankle. And then now we'll use whatever kind of device you have, a strap or otherwise, or you can simply hold on to the leg and that works pretty well too. We'll stretch our right hamstring. So if you haven't done this stretch in a little while, you want to start conservatively with a bend in your knee, and you can always go from there. Let your shoulders relax toward the earth. So with that stretch we did previously, we opened the front gate of the body. Now we're opening the back of the leg. So we'll take the right leg a little bit over to your left. So we're getting into that side seam of the leg. No stone unturned in this practice. We'll get a little bit of everything. And then bringing the right leg back to where it started, and we'll bend the left knee if it's not already. And then your left knee, your left leg will go to the left, your right leg will go to the right. So now we're getting the inner seams of both legs. Make sure to soften your jaw. Two more breaths. And then slowly start to bring your right leg and your left leg to the center. And we'll just place your right ankle on top of your left thigh. You can set your strap to the side for a moment, finding a figure four with your right leg, option to hug your left knee in. So this is actually one of the best stretches within yin for springtime because it really targets the wood element in that right hip. Just as a reminder, the wood element is a lovely thing. It's that growth, that blossoming, that abundance. However, sometimes we can do a little bit too much too soon, and then wood can overgrow a bit. So we always want to think about balance. All right, so starting to come out of that stretch, and let's pause in Shavasana or constructive rest because we did a lot of lovely stretches on the right side, and let's see if they made a difference, if we feel differently. And now we'll hug the left knee in to your chest, starting with three ankle rolls each direction. And then coming into the hamstring stretch. So the back of the leg now gets its turn. As a reminder, you can always bend the knee as much as you want to. And then now to get the outer seam of the left leg, you'll take the left leg a little bit to your right. Okay, and then for the inner seam of the legs, bending the right knee. So your right knee goes to the right, your left leg goes to the left. Now, by the time we finish this stretch, we will have done the front, the back, each side of the legs. And then the last stretch in this series for this side is to bring your left ankle to the top of your right thigh. Once you have that figure four, you can keep your right foot on the ground or hug your right thigh in. One more breath. And slowly we'll find a brief pause in Shavasana. Once again, just to notice any difference from before and after. Now, the next pose I'd like for us to do is really going to get into the side body. So we did kind of the side of the legs, but we'll get more into the upper body as well with banana asana. So from Shavasana, laying here on your back, you'll take both legs over to the right, bending your upper body over to the right. So you're sort of like a little bamboo reed here. And then you can decide if you want to keep your legs side by side or try out one of your ankles on top. It could be the left or the right, whichever feels better. And then if you wanted the upper body as part of the equation, you could take your arms overhead. This also, for a lot of people, myself included, gets the front gate of the left hip too, the psoas area, which is lovely. And see if you can take advantage of all the space you created with the heart roll around the ribs and chest. So that as we inhale, you want to feel like your ribs are opening to the left and to the right, as well as the front and the back. And then as you exhale, everything kind of hugs back in. 3 more breaths. And then slowly we'll return to the center, that brief pause. The pause is so, so important for our mental health, for our ability to stop before we act. And then now we'll take both legs to your left. So as your legs go to the left, the upper body also bends over to the left. And then deciding for yourself what is the best idea for today. Do you want your legs side by side, one or the other ankle on top, arms overhead, or not? This is another really targeted pose for spring with that wood element because wood element correlates with your liver. And so that's over on your right side. And right now we're giving our liver so much beautiful space. When we have space, then we can grow. When the liver doesn't feel like it has enough space. In Chinese medicine, that's the emotion of like bitterness or maybe anger. We just feel like we don't have enough room. Coming back to the center. One final time for us to pause before we come upright. And then I invite you to transition in your favorite or most easeful way to upright. And you'll probably want a few things for support. So things like blankets and pillows or bolsters. We'll be coming into a half dragonfly, half butterfly. So I'm going to sit on my blanket. And then I'm also going to have a couple of bolsters nearby. And I'll show you a few different options here. So let's have the right knee bent in half butterfly. And then the left leg will be lengthened out to the side. Things to think about for your knees is you might want to support them. So sometimes it's the bent knee that wants support, sometimes it's the straight knee, sometimes it's one of each. Um, so you can get things like blankets or throw pillows to support the knees so that they're easeful. Because we never want to have discomfort in the knees if we can help it. It's a sign that we need to do less rather than more. So after you have your knees sort of situated, we'll be coming forward. So you can come forward without any props and sort of hold yourself up a little bit with your arms. Or if you do have soft things around you, or even you could use a chair or an ottoman, then you can fold yourself forward over the objects that you chose. So the idea is that we're keeping the stretch, the opening mild. Since in yin, we're in these poses for several minutes, we want to make sure that the stretch is mild so it doesn't get too spicy by that third minute. And just a reminder, if your lower back starts to feel a little uneasy, you can sit completely upright and just take your left leg a little wider, or you can build at the height of your props, even turn your props on their edge. Perhaps you have a sense of an opening, that blossoming quality in the back of the chest now, where you're kind of opening at the back of the heart, opening that space between your shoulder blades. 2 more cycles of our breath here, inviting in that spring weather, that spring breeze into the back of your heart and lungs, just like you could open up the windows there. And we'll slowly come out and we'll do the same thing on the other side. So you'll want to take just as much time and attention setting up the legs for the other side. So the left knee is bent, the right leg is straight. And again, kind of check in with your knees and what the knees might need in this orientation. It might not be exactly the same as on your first side, because your sides are a little different. And then you'll start to come forward with or without props. Can recall that feeling of opening the windows for the first time after the cold winter. where it was just nice enough outside that you wanted to invite in that warmer air. I personally love to air out the house every now and then, especially early in the morning or after the rain. Last two cycles of your breath here. And then nice and slowly we'll start to come up. And I think it's a nice opportunity to lengthen both of your legs and then just give a little brush of the energy up and down the legs with a little extra love and attention to the knee. All right, so we'll now move into a couple of restorative poses, starting with the reclined butterfly. So since I have two bolsters, I like to stack them in a T shape, so I have this incline. If you just had one bolster, you could use a block or a pillow under the end so you have that incline. You could also choose to lay directly on the earth. You don't need to use bolsters at all if you didn't want to, or if you didn't have them. And then this is where it might be nice to utilize blocks or throw pillows. Throw pillows work really lovely for this. In fact, they work even better than blocks. So the soles of your feet are toward each other, knees are bent, but you want to think about supporting the legs so that they're just right. Remember, we want a mild sensation. And honestly, now that we're doing a little bit more restorative poses, you might even want no sensation. So you can really kind of customize how much of a stretch you want. I'm going for less rather than more. And then because I'm practicing in my basement and it's a little chilly, that's why I have on a sweater. So I'm gonna pile on the blanket so I feel cozy. And then just make yourself as snug as a bug in a rug. We'll be here just about 5 minutes. As we're in a butterfly pose. Maybe think about butterflies. I know I've started to see a few in the yard. Definitely a sign of the spring. embodying that quality of blossoming, blooming, opening, but just ever so slowly. Flowers, they open so slowly, you can't really even tell. It's like not noticeable to the human eye, maybe only with a time-lapse camera. But one day you look and the flower has bloomed. A little less than a minute to go here. This would be the time to let your legs be a little bit heavier, your heart to be a little bit lighter. All right, and then stretching the legs. That might be for some of you stretching the legs forward. For some of you, it might be bringing the knees toward the center. And now we'll rearrange ourselves into a inversion for the legs. So we all have different setups, different availability of props and wall space. So for elevating the legs, you might have your legs up a couch or a piece of furniture. Some of you have a nice kind of open space on the wall for legs up the wall. I'll be guiding a little mindfulness in this particular pose. And it's possible some of you, if you're comfortable enough, you might want to stay in your position for final relaxation as well. But others of you will want to change into something more comfy. So totally up to you. You can see I'm using my stacked bolsters to create a little handmade piece of furniture. You use whatever you have available. Even you could be on your couch and put your legs on the back of the couch. And just like before, think about being nice and warm and cozy. So there are many practices within the yoga tradition like 61 points, different journeys around the body. They're called Yantras, which is like a journey of the body. And the one that we'll do today is similar to 61 points, but it won't quite be 61 points. And each of these body parts that I name as you're resting here, I'd love for you to, you can be more traditional with it. And as I name the body parts, you could visualize a yellow star or a blue star, a yellow light or a blue light. But you also might, in each of those spots, visualize a flower blossoming, like a lotus flower or whatever your favorite flower is. So, completely up to you. But regardless of what your visualization or what you're imagining there, each of these points on the body is a place where in yoga we think about planting an intention. So it's like a little seed that you're planting in these various places in the body. It might be that you want your health to blossom. I know for me lately, I've been really focusing on my sleep and putting my sleep as a priority. So maybe you have some seed that you want to plant in these various spots in the body. So we'll start with our awareness at the third eye, just about the center of the forehead, planting that intention. It could be the blue or yellow or white star or light. It might be a flower. And then we'll move our awareness to the throat, imagining the light or the star or the flower there. And now the center of your chest, and the center of the right chest, the center of your chest, the center of your left chest, back to the center of the chest, the navel point, thinking of the star or the light or the flower right at the navel, and then over to the right hip joint, the right knee, the right ankle, the right big toe, second toe, third toe, fourth toe, fifth toe, back to the ankle, the right knee, the right hip. Now to your left hip, left knee, left ankle, left big toe, second toe, third toe, fourth toe, little toe, back to the left ankle, left knee, left hip, and then back to the navel, point of light or star or flower, planting your intention, the center of your heart, the throat, and back to where we began at the third eye, point of light or star or flower. Seeing your whole body, your whole being as fertile ground for your potential, like a springtime garden, just waiting for the right moment to bloom. Now, if you're comfortable here, you can stay in this position for our final relaxation, or you could rearrange into something more comfortable. And just like flowers, all living things, including ourselves, need certain ingredients to flourish. For flowers, it's sunlight and water. For you, it might be sleep, hydration, time in nature, time with friends or family. What ingredients would help your intention bloom? Feeling free to stay here as long as you'd like. But when you feel ready, beginning your transition to seated. Excuse me. Along with the spring flowers, sometimes there's spring allergies. So, as you come to close your practice, whether you're lying down or seated up, please feel free to place your hands anywhere that feels intentional for you as a way to close your practice and reintegrate after our time together. Happy full moon, happy spring, and I thank you for your practice of yoga.